They say when something breaks in a house, you usually hear it. A plate shatters, a door slams, a glass tips over. But when my marriage broke, it was quieter than I expected. Just the faint clink of a fork dropping onto a dinner plate, and her eyes, dodging mine like I was a street preacher she didn't want to hear. My name's Jack Marlowe. I'm not a saint. Never claimed to be. But I played by the rules. I took care of my family. I showed up. I held the steering wheel of our life while she scrolled on her phone in the passenger seat. And let me tell you, I didn't even blink when she stopped saying, "I love you," at night. I just thought it was fatigue, or work stress, or maybe she was going through one of those finding herself phases. You know the ones, they usually involve therapy, yoga, and quoting people with 3 names. I was 38, full-time mechanical engineer, part-time dad joke distributor, and fully in love with a woman who, it turned out, had already moved on. But like I said, that came later. Right now, we were having dinner. Our daughter Emma was 7, sitting between us like a little ceasefire. She was going on about her class project, something about volcanoes and papier-mâché. I smiled, nodded, asked questions, played the role. Across from me, my wife Heather was doing that thing she did when she didn't want to talk, nodding out of rhythm with the conversation, checking her phone under the table, pushing her food around like it had personally offended her. I looked at her and thought, she's not here. Not in this room. Not with us. I didn't know where she was, but it wasn't here. After dinner, I did the dishes. Not because I'm a hero, just because I've always liked the sound of running water. It helps me think. And right then, I was thinking about the 1,000 little things she'd stopped doing. Like hugging me from behind when I made coffee, or kissing me on the cheek before she left for work, or using the word we. It was all her, I, and me lately. She had become her own separate country, and I hadn't realized she'd declared independence. I didn't confront her. Not that night. Not even the next one. I just watched. I watched her leave earlier for meetings. I watched her dress nicer, talk softer, and smile at her phone like it was telling her bedtime stories. I watched her come home smelling like cologne I didn't own and making up stories that sounded like they were written by a toddler trying to lie about cookies. Still, I said nothing. Because I had a plan. See, some men storm out. Others rage. Some blow their lives up with fist and fury. But me? I wait. And I listen. Because if there's one thing I've learned from life and engineering, it's that structures don't collapse from one punch. They collapse from pressure applied slowly, consistently, and without warning. And my pressure had just begun. So I bought a notebook. Not a digital one. No cloud syncing or password-protected apps. Just a beat-up, spiral-bound notebook from the gas station with a picture of a bald eagle on the cover and the words, "Freedom isn't free," fitting in a bitterly poetic way. In that notebook, I started writing dates, times, excuses, her outfits, the mood she was in before and after she left. I wasn't doing it to be creepy. I was collecting data. Because when you've worked on precision parts your whole adult life, you get good at spotting inconsistencies. And let me tell you, Heather's story had more holes than a screen door in a hailstorm. I didn't even have to snoop. That was the sad part. She made it easy. Passwords weren't changed. Location tracking still active. Her texts? Well, they weren't exactly Shakespeare. Just strings of flirty messages and kissy face emojis sent to a contact labeled Shauna, work. Shauna, huh? Turns out Shauna had a beard, and a truck, and a gym membership he never used. The man's real name was Greg. He worked in real estate, and he wore those skinny jeans that hug the calves like they owe them rent. From what I gathered, Greg also had a thing for married women who were bored of good men. A very specific fetish, apparently. But I didn't confront her. Not yet. You know what I did? I started smiling more. I cooked more dinners. I fixed the leaky faucet. I took Emma to school and kissed her forehead like it was made of porcelain. I did all the things a stable, dependable man does when the house is on fire and nobody knows it but him. Because here's the thing, people underestimate calm men. They think if you're not yelling, you're not hurting. If you're not crying, you're not broken. But I wasn't broken. I was calculating. And while Heather was out playing emotional karaoke with Greg, mouthing the words to a love song she didn't even write, I was preparing the greatest exit performance she'd ever see. Not a fight, not a shout, just one quiet, devastating checkmate. And it started with one question I asked our daughter Emma during a walk to the park. Hey kiddo, if things ever changed around here, like if Mom and I didn't live in the same house, who would you want to stay with? She didn't even blink. You, Daddy. You never forget stuff. You always remember to bring my lunch. I smiled, and I knew right then and there. She was coming with me. Not a court in the world would stop it. People always ask, how did you find out? Like there's one big, theatrical moment. A lipstick-stained shirt, a voicemail left on speaker, maybe a surprise encounter at a restaurant. Nah, it happened on a Tuesday. Tuesdays, by the way, are the beige wallpaper of the week. Nothing exciting ever happens on a Tuesday, until it does. I was supposed to be at work. Key phrase, supposed to. I had told Heather I had a mandatory meeting. Instead, I was in my car parked 2 streets over from Greg's modern rustic bachelor pad, watching it like it owed me money. She had left the house at 6:15 a.m., said she was going in early for a client call. Problem was, her office didn't open until 8. At exactly 6:45, her car pulled up to Greg's place. She didn't knock. She used a key. Bingo. I didn't rush the door, didn't barge in or light their bed on fire. I just sat there in my car and watched the curtains shift. A silhouette passed by the window, 2 shapes, one behind the other. I could have taken a picture. But what for? You only need to prove infidelity to someone who plans to stay. Me? I wasn't planning to. So I turned the ignition, drove home, and made pancakes. Emma woke up to the smell of maple syrup and bacon. She thought it was a special day. And in a way, it was. It was the day I stopped loving Heather. Let me tell you, there's no bang, no fireworks. When love dies, it doesn't scream. It exhales, quiet and final. Heather came home that evening looking tired. That was her word. Tired. Like she'd been up all night writing an emotional novel, not committing low-effort adultery with a guy whose cologne smelled like Axe and ego. She sat down on the couch next to me and put her hand on my knee like she still had the right. I looked at her and smiled, warm, even, and asked, "Did Greg enjoy breakfast?" She froze, dead still, like a deer hearing the click of a camera right before the gunshot. I didn't yell, didn't throw anything, didn't cry, just stood up, picked up my coat, and said, "You can keep the house. Keep the car. Keep everything, really. Except for Emma." She stood up like she was going to argue, but I raised my hand, not in anger, just in calm assurance. I've been documenting for weeks. Times, dates, GPS messages. I've got a lawyer who specializes in custody and 3 character witnesses ready to testify that I'm the stable parent. Her mouth opened, then closed, like a fish on land. "You didn't just cheat on me," I said. "You abandoned your daughter. And now you're going to learn what that really costs." I left that night. Didn't even take a toothbrush. But I did take my dignity. And Emma? I picked her up from school the next day and told her we were going on a little adventure. She smiled like it was Christmas. And just like that, the new life began. You'd be surprised how much you can fit in the back seat of a Honda when your dignity's riding shotgun. 3 duffel bags. Emma's favorite stuffed bear, Peanut. My copy of To Kill a Mockingbird. And a little plastic jewelry box with a ballerina that never danced quite right. Emma's, not mine. We weren't running away. We were moving on. The first stop was a motel off Route 19. Not classy, not shady, just forgettable, which was exactly what I wanted. The kind of place where nobody asks questions and everyone minds their own healing. Emma thought it was a vacation. She jumped on the bed like it owed her back pay and turned on the TV like she owned stock in cartoons. I sat by the window, stared out at the dim parking lot, and exhaled for the first time in months. She looked up and asked, "Daddy, is this our new home?" "No, baby," I said. "This is just a chapter. The good part's coming." That night, she fell asleep in my arms. She smelled like bubblegum shampoo and innocence. And I knew, no matter how much it cost, no matter how much of myself I had to burn away, I'd keep her safe. It took 3 weeks to find something better than that motel. A modest rental house in the next town over, 2 bedrooms, 1.5 baths, with just enough backyard for a swing set and bad decisions. The walls were white, the carpets were beige, and the kitchen had a stove older than my high school diploma, but it was ours. Correction, mine and Emma's. I made it a home the way single fathers do, with IKEA furniture, Craigslist bargains, and the kind of YouTube tutorials that begin with, "So you accidentally bought a sink you can't install." It wasn't glamorous, but it was peaceful. Emma got used to the new school faster than I expected. Turns out, kids adapt better than adults do. She made friends, started dance class, and got a paper star taped to her desk the first week for being a good listener. She told me about it over grilled cheese and tomato soup, like she'd won a Nobel Prize. And honestly, in that moment, it felt like she had. As for me, I traded the 50-minute commute to my old engineering job for a 10-minute walk to a small firm downtown. Less money, sure, but more time with Emma. And after what I'd been through, I realized time was the one currency worth hoarding. Now, here's where things get interesting. Heather didn't fight the custody agreement. Not at first. Her lawyer must have shown her the notes I kept, the GPS logs, the timestamps, the screenshots. There was no rebuttal, no last-minute performance about maternal instincts or crocodile tears. She just signed the papers like someone signing for a package they didn't order. And that was it. Full custody granted to me. She got holidays and 1 weekend a month, supervised at first. She never showed for the first 2. Claimed work obligations. The third time, she texted an hour before pickup and said she was emotionally unprepared. Emma didn't cry. She just asked if we could go for ice cream instead. We did. I let her get the rainbow sprinkles and didn't say a word when she wore more than she ate. I just watched her smile. Because that's the thing about building a new life from the rubble. Sometimes the smallest joys feel like skyscrapers. Now, 1 year later, the woman who burned it all down came knocking. Literally. It was a Sunday. I was making pancakes, our new tradition. Emma was in the backyard with her friends, wearing butterfly wings and commanding a tea party like a CEO. Then came the knock. I opened the door, and there she stood. Heather. Same haircut. Different eyes. The kind of eyes you get when you realize you bet everything on the wrong man and the dealer took it all. Hi, she said. I said nothing. Just leaned against the door frame like I had all the time in the world. I was wondering if I could talk to Emma. About. She hesitated. She always had a delay when she was lying, like her brain buffering a bad connection. I miss her. And I thought maybe we could talk, the 3 of us. You know, for closure. I smiled, slow and practiced. Closure's a funny word coming from the person who slammed the door. She looked down, played with her sleeve. Classic Heather, weaponized vulnerability. I've changed, Jack. I nodded. So has she. I turned and called out. Emma, someone's here for you. She came around the corner, wearing one wing and a tiara that wouldn't sit straight. When she saw Heather, her face didn't light up. It didn't darken either. It just stayed still. Hey, sweetie, Heather said, kneeling. I've missed you so much. Emma looked at her, then said, in a voice clear and flat, I don't miss you anymore. And just like that, Heather broke in real time. I saw it, like watching a glass tip in slow motion. She stood, mumbled something I didn't catch, and walked off. And I shut the door behind her. Not with anger, but with finality that I didn't feel anything when I shut the door on Heather that day. Not anger, not joy, nothing. Which, in my book, is progress. You know you've healed when the person who broke you doesn't stir a single nerve. No spike in blood pressure. No mental courtroom debates. Just neutrality. Like hearing the weather in a city you don't live in anymore. She left without another word. Got in her car, some lease on a life she still couldn't afford, and drove away. I heard the engine fade down the street, then turned back to Emma and asked if she wanted to go to the lake. She said yes. We left Heather in the past where she belonged. But life, as it tends to do, had other ideas. It started with a letter. No return address. Just my name written in that jagged cursive I hadn't seen since before the betrayal. Inside, one folded piece of paper and a single sentence. You'll regret this. I didn't, but I was curious. The next week, I got a call from my lawyer. The same one who helped me win full custody without breaking a sweat. She's filed a motion, he said. For what? Custody modification. Claims she's reformed. Wants shared custody. I laughed. I wasn't even angry, just impressed. She couldn't share the Wi-Fi password, but now she wants to share custody? He chuckled, but there was a warning in his voice. She's hired a high-priced firm out of the city. Seems like she's trying to clean up her image. Character references, therapy records, the whole redemption arc. I let that sit in the air for a second. She doesn't want Emma, I said. She wants her image back. Doesn't matter, he replied. We're going to have to show the court she's not fit for joint custody. Then we'll show them, I said. Let's remind the court what rock bottom looks like in a pantsuit. While Heather was playing at reinvention, I was building something real. Emma and I had our routines. Taco Tuesdays, Friday movie nights, Sunday bike rides. I volunteered at her school twice a month. My fridge was covered in crayon masterpieces. My car always had glitter on the seat from her craft projects. I was a dad, not a part-time guardian, not a once-a-month visitor, a full-time, all-in, badge-wearing parent. And the thing is, courts care about consistency. They care about track records, not speeches, not apologies, not a woman suddenly interested in custody after 12 skipped weekends. But just in case, I started preparing, not with rage, with precision. The first thing I did was dig. See, Heather didn't just disappear after I left. She spiraled, lost her job for violating ethics with a client. Guess Greg wasn't the only bad decision. Started dating some personal trainer with motivational quotes tattooed across his ribs. Went on a wellness binge, then crashed and posted tearful self-help rants on social media, which I screenshot daily and filed under Exhibits A through Z. Meanwhile, her apartment had revolving doors. Every 6 months, a new lease. I tracked them all. I also found out she started a blog called Healing with Heather, a collection of word salad and yoga photos, pretending she was the phoenix rising from the ashes she lit herself. The comments were all praise from people who didn't know she ghosted her own daughter for over a year. So I printed it. All of it. Because the one thing more damning than lies are public lies. The court date came 3 months later. Emma stayed with my friend Dave for the day, Emma's honorary uncle, and the guy who helped set up my new life. I wore a navy suit and calm like armor. Heather showed up in white, like a prodigal bride walking into a courtroom instead of a chapel. She looked thinner, softer, like someone who'd cried more than she'd slept. Her lawyer was sharp, polished, spoke about rehabilitation and maternal instinct and a mother's right to repair the bond. I let him go. When it was my turn, my lawyer handed the judge a folder thicker than a dictionary, timestamps, screenshots, signed affidavits from teachers, neighbors, even Emma's pediatrician. The judge flipped through it like he was reading the history of a ghost. Then I spoke, not with anger, but with truth. I didn't leave my marriage out of spite, I said. I left it to protect my daughter. And I've raised her alone, every day, since the moment her mother walked out and didn't look back. This motion, it's not about love. It's about guilt management. And I won't let Emma become a stage for someone else's redemption arc. Heather started crying. Not the loud, dramatic kind. The quiet kind. The I know it's sober kind. The judge looked at her, then at me, then at the folder. Motion denied. Full custody maintained. Heather didn't speak a word as she left. And me? I went home, picked up Emma from Dave's, took her for ice cream. Again. But let me tell you this was not the revenge. No, that came later. Because the difference between revenge and justice? Timing. And I was just getting started. After the custody ruling, most people would have called it a win. Me? I called it the end of round 1. See, Heather thought this was a battle about Emma, about reclaiming some moral high ground she'd abandoned a long time ago. What she didn't realize was, the second she tried to weaponize our daughter in court, this stopped being about custody. It became about closure. The kind I write. And I don't write happy endings for people like her. So I started phase 2. The house we used to live in, the one I walked away from without taking a couch cushion or spoon, was still in her name. She'd kept it, probably to cling to the illusion of normalcy, or maybe just because she couldn't afford anything else. She let it rot from the inside out while she posted beach selfies and pretended she was a lifestyle guru. But here's the thing, she never refinanced it, which meant my name was still tied to the mortgage. And that, my friend, was my foot back in the door. I paid a visit to a real estate lawyer, explained the situation, asked what my options were. He smiled like a dentist about to drill a very bad tooth. Well, he said, if she's behind on payments, which she is, by the way, you could move to force a sale. He paused. Or you could buy her out. I leaned back in the chair. Oh, I plan to. But not with money. Enter Greg. Remember him? The guy with the skinny jeans and the emotional depth of a toaster oven? Turns out, he didn't age well once the affair glow wore off. Word on the street, or at least in her deleted blog posts, was that he ghosted her after 6 months, took her laptop, and left a note that just said, "You peaked in college." Ouch. Anyway, Heather had been circling the drain financially ever since. I knew this because I hired someone to check. A polite, well-dressed guy named Victor. Former IRS. Quiet voice. Dead eyes. The kind of guy who could make your bank account confess in 5 minutes flat. She's drowning in credit card debt, Victor said, handing me a stack of paper. Also, she tried to start an Etsy shop. For what? Homemade soy candles. I stared at him. Heather hasn't lit a candle in her life. He shrugged. Neither of half the people on Etsy. She had 3 months left before foreclosure. And guess who swooped in with a proposal? I arranged the meeting at a neutral location, a coffee shop halfway between my new life and her old one. I showed up in jeans and a calm demeanor. She showed up late and wearing hope-like cheap perfume. "Jack," she said, smiling like we were in a Hallmark movie. "You look good." "I feel good," I said. "You look like you haven't slept in a while." She flinched. Small, but I saw it. I slid a folder across the table. "This is the debt you're in. Mortgage, credit, liens. Everything Victor found." She looked at it, then at me. "Victor. Private investigator," I said. "Real nice guy. Doesn't blink." She pushed the folder away. "So what? You're here to rub it in?" "No," I said. "I'm here to make you an offer." Her eyes lit up in that old calculating way. The one she used to use when trying to figure out if a dress was worth the fight. "I'll take the house," I said. "Full assumption of the mortgage. I cleaned the slate. You walk away with zero debt." She blinked. "That's generous." "It is. But why?" I sipped my coffee. "Because I want the house," I said. "I want to gut it, paint over every memory, and turn it into a sanctuary for someone who never stopped showing up." "And who's that?" she asked, already knowing the answer. "Emma." She bit her lip. "What about me?" "You." I shrugged. "You get a fresh start. That's what you wanted, right? A new chapter. Go find it." She stared at the folder. "What's the catch?" I smiled. "You sign a legally binding affidavit relinquishing any future custody rights. No appeals. No surprise lawsuits in 5 years. No dramatic courtroom comebacks. You vanish, on paper and in practice." "You can't do that," she said, the panic rising. "No judge will." "Already drafted," I said. "My lawyer said with your history and absence, you'd be lucky to keep visitation. This just makes it official." She sat there, trapped between her pride and her poverty. Then she signed. 2 weeks later, I had the house. It was mine. Legally, financially, emotionally. I walked through it with Emma one Sunday afternoon. She was quiet at first, memories hanging in the air like fog. Then she saw her old room and smiled. "Can I paint it blue?" "You can paint it plaid if you want." She laughed and ran upstairs. And me? I stood in the kitchen. The same kitchen where Heather once told me we were just in a rough patch. Where she told me Greg was just a friend. Where I believed her. I ran my hand across the counter. Cold. Smooth. Ready. It was mine now. Every lie. Every betrayal. And every brick I would rebuild with. Revenge, people think, is about making someone hurt. But the best revenge? Is reclaiming what was stolen. And making it better than they ever imagined. I didn't move into the old house right away. First, I gutted it. Not just the drywall and floors, every trace of her. The framed photos? Gone. The perfume bottles still in the bathroom cabinet? Trashed. I even removed the light fixture over the dining table where she once told me she was confused but still committed. Right. I hired contractors to tear down the kitchen wall, make an open floor plan, build a reading nook for Emma with built-in shelves, replace the master bed, didn't even donate the old one. I dragged it to the curb myself. We painted her old office into a bright playroom, turned the garage into a home gym. And the guest room? That became mine. New life. New blueprint. Emma helped me pick the paint for her room. Midnight blue with glow-in-the-dark stars. On the first night in the house, we lay side by side under her ceiling, and she whispered, "This feels like home again." It wasn't again. It was for the first time. Heather didn't go quietly. About 4 months after she signed away custody, she resurfaced. Not legally. No, she wasn't that brave. She tried the back door. She started showing up to Emma's school. Not during school hours, at pickup. Hanging near the edge of the parking lot like a sad ghost, hoping to catch Emma's eye. The first time, Emma didn't notice. The second time, she did. "Daddy." I think I saw Mom. Over there. I turned and saw Heather, leaning against her dented sedan, arms crossed like she was owed something. We locked eyes. She gave a little wave. I didn't wave back. Emma didn't either. We got in the car and left. She was waiting for a reaction, and I gave her nothing. Which, if you know anything about someone like Heather, you know, that's the one thing they can't stand. 3 days later, she showed up at my work. Waited outside the building, trying to act like it was spontaneous. I stepped out for lunch, and there she was, standing there in those old boots she used to say made her feel fierce. I barely stopped walking. "Jack," she said, falling in step beside me. Can we talk? No. Please, she begged. Just 5 minutes. I stopped. Turned. You gave up your rights. You made your choices. You don't get 5 minutes. You got 5 years, and you blew it. I didn't know what I was doing, she said. I was sick. I was lost. You were selfish, I replied. And now, finally, the math's catching up. I left her standing there. People were watching. She hated that. But you know what? She was finally feeling what I felt for so long. Heather's final attempt came in the form of a letter. Not to me. To Emma. It was a long, rambling monologue about regret, forgiveness, and how sometimes adults make mistakes. She included a photo of the three of us from a vacation Emma barely remembered, trying to create nostalgia from a past she abandoned. Emma brought it to me. Do I have to write back? She asked. No, I said. You don't have to do anything. She looked at the photo. She's still trying to make me feel something. But it's not working. I hugged her. That means you're healing. We burned the letter together in the fireplace that night. Emma tossed the photo and laughed. Goodbye, old mom, she said. Here's the part people always lean in for, the revenge. So here it is. 6 months after she signed her rights away, I made a call to the private school I'd been saving up to send Emma to. She got in. Not just because of the test scores or the letters of recommendation, but because of the essay she wrote. Title: The Day I Chose My Real Parent. I didn't help her write it. She read it to me after it was accepted. It ended like this. Some people say forgiveness means letting go. I think sometimes it means protecting yourself. My dad didn't hurt my mom. He didn't yell or scream. He just walked away. And every step he took brought us somewhere safer. I don't miss her. Because I found home. I cried that night. Not because I was sad. Because I knew I'd done it. I didn't just survive the betrayal. I beat it.